Welcome to the Grand Theft World podcast, hosted and sponsored by GrandTheftWorld.com, a place. It's a one-stop shop for your freedom-related daily ongoings. This show is a weekly rundown of the news of the week, and then we're going to give you some contextual history, some deep dives into primary sources and documents to embolden you during the next week of this precipitation of toxic media out there, people trying to get you all scared, get you to do things without informed consent. We can put a stop to that, but it takes a little informed, couple hours of your week looking into the facts, such as our first story that we're going to cover later on tonight that I'm going to talk about right now. Pfizer. It's not just the company you see on TV sponsoring all your favorite news channels.
Is brought to you by Pfizer.
No. They have a long and it's tedious criminal history over several decades. We shouldn't be looking at Pfizer as this benevolent, charitable organization saving lives around the world. Maybe we should start with the grammar of who is Pfizer, what have they done, and why are they doing the things that they're doing these days?
So what has been released already has been basically the first 2.5 months after the emergency use authorization of Pfizer's vaccine back in late December 2020. So just those 2.5 months of reporting, this is what we're looking at here. Let's look at the actual documents that we know, about 90 plus pages so far. Cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports received through February 28th, 2021. Again, that's 2.5 months after the EUA. Well, here's one of the big bombshell documents here from the adverse reporting. Now, there's a chart that was received, and here's what that looks like. This is the general overview, selected characteristics of all cases received during the reporting interval. Again, it's 2.5 months after the EUA. So we have here female, total cases, case numbers of received 42,086. Highlighted up at the top there, 29,914 were female. Interestingly enough, only 9,182 were male. Wow. Then you have almost 3,000 that had no data. So that's going to be kind of hard to track how that works, I guess. But at the bottom, you have 1,223 quote fatal case outcomes. So
wow.
What the heck is that? What's going on there? But what's also interesting to note about this is there's a little over 42,000 cases. But if you look there at the bottom in the small print, you start adding up all of those adverse reactions. It comes out to about almost 140 actual events. So
140,000
in the case reports,
right? Actual events, yeah. 140,000.
Yeah. Yep. So you have case reports with multiple adverse events here going on, and gastrointestinal. There's nervous system disorders were 25,957. Musculoskeletal, connective tissue, just goes on and on with these reports.
We're going to follow up that story by then cutting to a Moderna timeline. Moderna also brings us a type of gene therapy for the past couple years. Every Christmas season, here's a new type of gene therapy. And Moderna actually got some approval on the gene therapy before the thing that the gene therapy is being used for was put out there. There's some investigation into that. Let's check out some news on that.
Okay, so this is a 2-hour chalkboard that is condensed into about 4 minutes. So if you want to see the whole thing, it's at FauciLied.com. But I'll try not to sound crazy and tie this together. Gain of function, which Fauci says never happened in November of 2015. It happened with Dr. Barrett. It was a published paper, November 2015. The USAID and Fauci with EcoHealth, they were funding it. It was happening with the Wuhan people. So we know that. But what you may not know is in November, the same month that published paper comes out, the United States begins a partnership with Moderna, and they are searching for mRNA coronavirus vaccines. Kind of a weird coincidence, but wait, it gets worse. In this time, we skip to 2018. DARPA receives a proposal from Dr. Barrett, US guy, Dr. Shi from Wuhan, and Peter Daszak from EcoHealth, and DARPA sees this and says, this is far too dangerous. We're rejecting your proposal. We don't know what happened from there, but we do know just about 12 months later in Wuhan, where Peter Daszak, Dr. Shi, the Bat Lady, and Dr. Barrick were all doing research on coronaviruses, About a year later, there's an outbreak, and the outbreak actually begins, according to documents that we have that have been smuggled out of China, that there were 10 hospitals involved by October with patients that we now know are corona-like virus symptoms. They didn't know what was going on. Now, that was in October. Remember, we didn't know anything about this in December. We were starting to get rumblings. China said there was some sort of an outbreak on December 31st. But Dr. Barrick signs a government deal with Moderna. I want to read it exactly to you. This deal was made. It's confidential. It's 158 pages long. It is, if I skip to page 104, they are entering a specific private confidential agreement. The NIH appears to be transferring technology to Dr. Barrick, but what they're making clear is, quote, mRNA coronavirus vaccine candidates developed and jointly owned by NIAID and Moderna. Now, this is weird because it's 2 weeks later that we know there's a problem. They signed that deal 2 weeks, who happened to be a partner with the Bat Lady in Wuhan. Here's where it gets really dark. These are the same group of people that in the end of January begin to have meetings, and they shut down and begin to smear anyone who's looking into the lab leak theory. They establish that's not true, don't even look there. It appears to be collusion. We've passed this on to several people in Congress and the Senate. We know Rand Paul is on this, and Dr. Fauci has some answers to give.
Well, I just want to affirm what you're saying. The amazing reporting you've done on this. Here's a clip of the recently departed NIH director, Francis Collins, admitting on camera that the U.S. government has a stake in the vax. Watch this.
Who's going to own that vaccine? Does the federal government own it?
One of the vaccines, the one that's furthest along, was started actually at the federal government in our own vaccine research center at NIH, and then worked with a biotechnology company called Moderna to get to where we are now with very impressive phase 1 results and getting ready to go into a large-scale trial as early as July. That one, of course, we do have some particular stake in the intellectual property.
This just seems, you are not making this up. What you're saying is true. Really quickly, why is this not a front page story everywhere?
All of the documents, we spent about a year on this with people like Charles Rixley from Drastic, with Judicial Watch. They were all FOIA'd. These are documents that prove beyond, I think, any kind of reasonable doubt, something very wrong is happening here. Moderna had been turned down for any kind of vaccine research by everyone publicly over and over again, and now this test is being done on our children. This is the only time that anybody will admit they were doing any kind of testing on coronavirus research for a vaccine with Moderna.
It's just beyond belief.
And then also we have a special guest coming up.
Yeah, screw the prostitutes and their horse-stream media institutions. I didn't play any part in that bullcrap at all. Same thing. I just knew it needed to be done. I was researching a whole bunch of crazy stuff since I was 14 and going down the rabbit holes and fact-checking stuff and looking at government documents and reading books and filling myself with as much knowledge as I could. And then it came to a point in time, I was like, okay, what are we going to do with this knowledge? Are we going to just kind of sit on it and make it kind of pointless? I didn't really want to be a lecturer or a commentator. I kind of wanted to do something with that information in the same way, same thing. I was like, I'm just going to do it. And I started doing it. Started going out there, started bootlegging press credentials after learning that you needed a press credential, started faking names when I needed to fake a name, started to dress up as staff when I needed to dress up as staff, started to sneak into venues, started to, get by security anytime I needed to get by security. And I got the job done, and it was a crazy ride. It's been a lot of fun, but it came to a point where obviously now with COVID and also now with just how many times I was able to get these people I mean, I got Henry Kissinger like 6 times. There's still confrontations I did with him that the public hasn't seen yet, just because I've been like too busy. I got, when it came to Al Gore, we made him cancel his book signing tour because of how many times we confronted him almost everywhere he went, all throughout the United States. So after doing all that, then they kind of really, really went out of the way. And then it just wasn't worth my time and my investment to try to get them. And they started becoming less available to the general public. And we really changed something, I believe, especially when it came to the kind of interactions a lot of these super powerful people had with the general public, since now, of course, they're a lot more guarded. They stay away. They don't take unscripted questions and answers. And the landscape has really changed since I've kind of been hitting the pavement. And it just became too difficult to achieve some of these things. And if you want to, have a voice out there now, you got to be producing content every single day. So even missing a day, going out there, thinking of an elaborative plan, thinking of a backstory, thinking of another website or another news organization, thinking of another backstory to get me into these events, was days and days of work and research. And a lot of times I would go there, and many times nothing would happen. I wasn't able to get anybody, or my microphone stopped working. I was doing everything on a shoestring budget. So now in this kind of media landscape, you got to be producing every single day. You got to work every single day in order to just have the audience that you built. So it became de-incentivized for me on many levels. And plus, I didn't want to really make it just about them, just about those individuals and calling them elites. I wanted to make it more about being able to build the culture, have a real conversation, and build solutions with that kind of content that would provide an avenue that could help people, instead of just hyper focusing on a lot of the bad people out there, focusing on attaining information, attaining talking points that you could share with your friends and family members and loved ones, and also kind of building a networking, a community of people, building the culture to change the direction that this country was going to, where we don't just kind of focus on exposing them, where we focus on building and creating some really cool stuff.
And then after that, we're going to show you a new trick that they installed on your Samsung. You might not know it there. You might call it a feature, a benefit. You might also call it toxic psychological programming. And it would go something like this.
Sing me a song. Let's celebrate that we have the vaccine to help us bring a change to this old routine. It can help us build our immunities while taking care of our communities. Vaccines are safe and an important step towards opening up and shaking hands again, and going somewhere we couldn't visit for months, protecting ourselves and the world at once.
And it's just another example of predictive programming. So tonight, we're going to change things up a little bit. We're going to kick it off with JP Sears. Awaken with JP has been doing incredible work. He had a really big week. He got to meet the former president of the United States. I guess he was in Florida from his Texas stronghold. He was on vacation or something. Let's check in with the latest creative notions from JP. He's going to represent what's going on in the minds of liberals out there to help you understand and navigate your next week. Let's check it out.
Hey man, I'm having some trouble.
What's wrong?
Well, you know how the world's been drastically changing the past 2 years?
No, I honestly haven't noticed.
Well, I'm finding it harder and harder to stay in denial about what's really going on.
Sounds tough.
Yeah, I want to stay more committed to being wrong rather than admitting that I was wrong. But I'm struggling because things are getting pretty obvious.
So you're having trouble staying in denial?
Yes.
Well, that's where you're going wrong. Denial isn't enough anymore. You need to be in denial that you're in denial.
Oh, so like 2 layers of denial?
Exactly.
So you're not in denial?
No, not at all.
Oh, I see. You're in denial that you're in denial.
Precisely. It's kind of like blissful intelligence, except it's numbness and not intelligent instead.
That's inspirational.
If you haven't heard about our Grand Theft World community membership, here are a few of the things you've been missing. a mobile app where you can access replays of the Grand Theft World podcast and show notes, access to the Grand Theft World community on Discord, where we crowdsource news and resources, and you can contribute to the show, the opportunity to participate in the Grand Theft World bi-weekly town hall, exclusive content from Richard Grove, including behind-the-scenes footage and future access to unpublished material, 93 episodes of the Peace Revolution podcast, and the Grand Theft World newsletter delivered straight to your inbox each week. If you want to stay ahead of the great game, visit us at grandtheftworld.com, click or tap the button in the top right-hand corner, and join a vibrant community of researchers blazing a new path to truth. We'll see you there.